I am Iori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. It's been a busy weekend on the political scene, and not all of it necessarily is in Nigeria. The Senate, as you know, will commence screening of the ministerial list sent to them by the president. But our concern this morning is going to be events in neighboring Niger. As you know, there's been a coup there, and indeed the African Union has spoken. There was a summit yesterday, Sunday, in Abuja, and they've come out with a communique. Long and short of it is that there will be a zero tolerance. Indeed, it has been demanded that the coup leader there, we need to get used to these names, General Abdurrahmane Tichiani.
It's a tough name to pronounce.
It is. He's taking charge, yeah. And ECOWAS has said that you must hand it back. Worse still, for them, they've put a timeline to it. Okay, my guest this morning is Kade Eswala, our political scientist, research associate prof at IADS, University of Lagos. As always, Kade, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. So, as I was saying, this seems to be a tough one because we thought we were seeing less of coups, and when you look at that whole swathe of countries that includes Chad, you find that on the contrary, it seems to be catching. It's catching as a common cold. Were you surprised with the situation in Chad? Especially the coup in Chad. I beg your pardon. The coup in Niger.
Chad was some months ago.
Exactly.
You know. Well, the straight answer is that I am not in any way surprised. I'm not surprised because what is playing out is what I choose to call action and reaction of extreme power usage. You know, the political system is set in such a way that there are powers that are, at the disposals of several parts. The government has its own power, the military has its own power, the judiciary has its own power. The people also have their own power. So what you see is that when one of these sectors or sections, so to say, use power in the extreme sense, okay, that action will catalyze reaction from other parts of the society. People could react by engaging in uprising, protest, riot, okay? If the reaction is not coming from the people, it could be from the military. And that comes in terms of coup and counter-coup, as you have witnessed across West Africa now. It shocks you to know that 4 out of 8 or so Francophone countries in West Africa are now being led by military coup. For an analyst, you want to interrogate why. Beyond the emotion of judgment. They don't like democracy.
And also that these countries are mostly, if not entirely, Francophone countries.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Francophone countries. But there's peculiarity. Peculiarity in the sense of the locations of these countries that you have now. If you see all of them, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Niger, they are neighbored. They are almost also all deadlocked. And they are exposed to the Libya-Cum Middle East, where small arms and ammunition are flowing in, which means they're also exposed to terrorism, okay? Much more than what you have in the coastal states. So what we have is a situation of serious pressure of insecurity within the political system. So if the military feels, wrongly or otherwise, you cannot know, that the government are not doing enough to address the insecurity, it is very likely for the military to react, especially because insecurity goes directly to the sector of the military. You know, young men and women in school, in hospitals, don't go to war. They can only be killed accidentally. But when there is insecurity, the military lives are on the way. So it's explainable, not justifiable, how you see these guys coming out to make claims and counterclaim, part of which is insecurity. And an extension to that is that there is a contagious dimension to it. when your neighbor engages in an action, and that action is called a military coup, and it does look like it is getting results. That neighbor is getting results in terms of a country now from that action. You're also tempted to do the same thing, especially when you feel your own government is also not doing what it's supposed to do. So there are a lot of ways in which this can be explained, not justified.
Not justified, explained.
However,
And the other, notable, remarkable thing is that this coup seems to be something of a popular coup in Niger itself. There were pictures of youths, you know, parading the streets, burning the French flag, hoisting the Russian flag. So there's also that worry that, look, are these people now looking more to, that is to say, the coupists, if there's any such word. So let's make it out of.
We can create the words if it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
We have the license.
You know, so this is how they have worked it out. But now that the ECOWAS body has slammed them with an ultimatum, I guess we're going to have to wait to see how they react, because they did say that they were considering all options to return this to normalcy, not excluding force. That would have been a first, isn't it? I can't remember if force has been threatened and indeed deployed in recent memory in Africa. But to show the seriousness of purpose of these times, they're saying that you've got to hand back in 7 days, or you shall see a reaction from us.
Well, I think we must commend ECOWAS for coming out with this very strong warning, very strong condemning position towards the coup. In principle, that is what ECOWAS should do. In principle, that is the body language and the disposition that one expects from ECOWAS. However, it goes beyond that, much beyond that. In elementary political science or social studies, what you and I were taught and what we are made and socialized to believe is that legitimacy and sovereignty lie, both of them lie in the hands of the people. Therefore, it is thought that people are wiser than the institutions that they put in place to run their society. That is the thinking.
Okay.
When in theory we say power lies in the hands of the people. When you just win an election, you say, well, the Nigerian people, in their wisdom, have decided. So in theory, what it means is that people are wiser. Now, on that assumption, if there was coup in Mali, and the Malians welcomed the coup against a purportedly democratically elected government, if there was the same in Chad, same thing happened. In Burkina Faso, same thing happened. And in Niger, only some 2 days ago, same thing eventually happened. Then, are you saying that people are no longer wise? That's what you taught us. That's the term of social engagement. The answer is more likely to be no. People are still wise, but they do not see support where they expect it. So they are shifting base to alternative support system, which they hope will give them what they want. And that is why I started by capturing it as action and reaction of extreme power usage within West African state. What happened is that the power of government exists, but it can be deployed in normal sense as well as in extreme sense. When you deploy it in a normal sense, it means you are balancing it. You are doing what you're supposed to do, increasing the privileges of the ruling class, doing all these things, and then the people are not suffering. If you deploy it in the extreme way, people are choked and they are dying. People will therefore also invoke the powers that they have. Military is part of the people, part of the government.
I was going to say...
The power it has lies in the barrel of the gun.
Indeed.
People are part of the governed. The power they have is insurgency. So you now have a situation in which extreme deployment of power on the part of the state and the government now catalyze military coup with support protests from the people. You can't win such war.
Which indeed is what has happened.
Which is indeed
what has happened now.
You can't win such war.
We're going to come back and talk about this some more. Let me go on a quick break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Our guest is still Kade Isuola, political scientist, research associate professor at UNILAG. Now, you were just saying how very important, the power base is for either the people or, depending on who it is, there are different power bases, so to speak, and
power bases
have to be managed properly.
Power bases.
There was also the point yesterday that was made along the lines of, look, well, not so much that the point was made, but it seems that what we have now is that you can either look at this, diplomatically, that is to say, for us to take when I say us, I'm talking about the rest of Africa, to take a diplomatic approach, or indeed take a
military approach.
A military
confrontational
approach. Now, and then it's complicated, I think, by the fact that there are other parties involved. For instance, we've mentioned Russia. Russia might not have been directly involved, but Russia is known to be wanting influence in Africa. China, ditto. The UK and the US that have always been there, well, we get as people are thinking about them now. So how complicated do you think the negotiations would be if it was decided that in the interest of the least collateral damage, perhaps we need to find a way to persuade these rebels to give it up? Is that a likely?
Well, I mean, you have just spoken my mind. Historically, confrontations have never worked to resolve any political crisis. You go to war, you kill people, people die in thousands and millions. You must return to the talk table, okay? I commended the effort of ECOWAS, the disposition. That's what should go to the world. But the underlying approach should be slightly different from that confrontation. When they get to the table, diplomacy must come. Persuasion, as you chose the word, must come. First should be the extreme consideration. And that can only come if all things are deemed to have failed. You cannot win the war by just extreme. The reasons are clear. The situation in that region, especially the Sahel, is already complicated. By the time you send soldiers to start operating in that region, how are you sure of the reaction of Chad, reaction of Mali, reaction of Burkina Faso military on their colleague who is being assaulted by what is supposed to be an ECOWAS force? You cannot predict. There are several uncertainties that could come with that. So I would advise that in as much as the government, the ECOWAS and its leadership under Ahmed Tinubu has done the right thing by making statements. There's a distinction between public statement and public action. Okay, the statements have been made diplomatically, politically. The world knows that ECOWAS is not in support. However, in resolving the problem, the approach must be eclectic. Any attempt to use force alone.
It's it will be unpredictable.
Don't let the prophet of doom, won't be. That's what I think.
I think enough said. We'll take your phone calls as well now, and as soon as they put it up there, because Nigeria must be watching this very, very, very carefully. And indeed, President Tinubu, as you said, has spoken as it's his turn as the president of Nigeria to be the chair. So he's put the right forward.
That's the best way to read.
And he's been very, as if he was to know that a thing like this might happen. From the very first day, he's been forceful in saying that democracy can be messy, can be difficult, but there is no alternative.
Yeah, he had that premonition. But again, they have been happening. This is the fourth. Only the space of 2 or 3 years in West Africa. So it was right of him to have made that statement at the point of swearing in that we need to protect democracy. But I said it elsewhere, or even on this platform, that protecting democracy cannot be done by words of mouth. You must protect governance. If you don't protect governance, you cannot protect democracy. If I were hired by ECOWAS to make some professional suggestions, the first thing today that I would say must be established in ECOWAS is a committee for good governance in West Africa.
Okay.
That committee will be more potent in addressing insurgency, coup, and counter-coup, much more potent than the committee that is called anti-coup, anti-military coup. The other one is bogus. Anti-military coup, how do you antagonize military coup without resolving the internal contradictions that make soldiers go to the street?
Well, exactly. But in this, it is soldiers. It is soldiers that went to the street, and worse still, of his own very presidential guard. But let me, before we continue, let me bring Kenneth in. Kenneth is in Abuja. Good morning to you, Kenneth.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please, with your comment or perhaps question for...
Yes, the question I want to ask in this topic is that in as much as I did not support military coup in any part of Africa or West Africa, the so-called democratic government, they are not treating its citizens fine. You understand me? They are not treating the citizens fine, just like what is happening in Nigeria now. They are budgeting heavy amounts for the National Assembly. They are budgeting heavy amounts for the executives. But the citizens, you ask them to wait. Wait till when? So something also replicated in other African countries you are seeing. So they should also enter there. They have enough to eat. They should give the little they are supposed to give to the citizens. This is what is causing uprising, is where there is no equality. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in. You know, what Kenneth just said now, you know, there are quite a sizable number of Nigerians in Nigeria. Most of them that I have contact with work as security guards, megadis, that kind of a thing. Yes. And what Kenneth just said, when I was speaking with these guys, that is their persuasion that the suffering is too much. We like them. We like the coup. And, that's why I was careful to tell you what their occupation is, what their life, their worldview is.
We all know. It's public knowledge.
Exactly.
We know what to do.
So they...
Like the Okada riders,
that's
the
all
guards,
that.
the truck pushers and all this stuff.
And they are solidly, as much as that
in support.
In support
and
of
they are
the coup.
part of the people.
And they are part of the people.
In
and
whose
the army
hands?
has said it is supporting the people. And so they are saying, yes, he has to go. Things are hard. Now, let's look at Niger. Second poorest country as they are in the world. And they say, yet it should potentially be as rich as can be with the uranium especially. Uranium is what people are talking about. And then France, as you know, with its own policies, most of which are unbelievable to those of us in West Africa, for instance. Can you imagine all our money having to go to the Central Bank of England, whether we like it or not, deposit it there, we would then let you take what you need to take.
Post-colonial administration.
Yeah, so all of that is going on. And it looks like the time is coming. It's not going to be an easy task because I imagine France is also on the sidelines watching all of this. Remember, there was this monetary thing, this financial thing also, where Russia is supposed to be involved in all of this. And I imagine France won't be liking any of this at all. So what is the attitude, what would you guess the attitude in a pragmatic sense, looking at the polity now, has to be?
See, first of all, let's trace it from
sorry,
where...
before you continue, let me take care of Mr. George, who called in as well.
No problem.
So that, good morning, Mr. George.
And good morning to the professor.
We can't.
Good morning.
We can't hear, but maybe they will help us with that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now it's better.
Hello? You can hear me now?
Yes, please. Yes, thank you. We can.
Right. All right. Uncle Yori, let me start by asking the previous caller whether it is the military that does better for the people. The military is not known to be a government of the people. The one you have chosen by yourself to govern over you is better by all means than the one that imposed himself. The amount of money Abacha looted from Nigeria, was there anybody that was able to challenge him? Or if it was under civilian rule, even if you cannot retrieve the money, at least you can make noise. Okay, let's come back to the matter. I wish the president, our president, was given that role of the chairman of African Union. It would have been more effective with this kind of situation at hand. If the sanctions that ECOWAS is imposing on Niger would gravitate to using force, I would advise that ECOWAS should not do it alone. Let them make it an AU affair. Because if ECOWAS is going into war with a neighboring country and Africa as a union is not doing it as a body, the whole problem will be on Nigeria. The whole expenses will be on Nigeria. And this is not a time for spending so much of our much-needed money to prosecute a war in a neighboring country.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling in, Mr. George. Kadi, could you that?
The point raised is valid. If I read them very well, what the point is that people misunderstand the fact that the worst democracy is better than the best military rule, and that given the trajectory in Nigeria and other African countries, military governments have never been the solution. I agree. I don't in any way disagree. And that's why I said and clarified at the initial stage that what I gave was an explanation,
not a justification.
Not justification. I state here that there's no way anybody would prefer military rule to democratic rule. We can never call for it. It's an aberration. It should never be. But you can explain why it is. And that is why I took you on to the theoretical level of what we all know. People did not witness only the insurgents of the military. They are in support. The same people you say have the highest level of sovereignty.
Exactly.
Are they now foolish? Do they not have that power anymore?
That's the complication.
So the question is, something is wrong either with our earlier understanding of sovereignty or with the practice, as the case may be. And that is what we need to probe into to be able to solve the problem.
But we have a problem right now.
Yes,
we can't take the time out to probe into
Good.
it.
So the Nigerian case is peculiar. Perhaps similar to those of other ECOWAS countries, but it's a bit peculiar. In 2021, when the current Nigerian president assumed power, he won that election. But I doubt if he won, as somebody put it in a discourse, the heart of the Nigerian people. There were complaints about violence, about rigging, just like, you have in many parts of Africa. Journalists were killed, in several cases. 2 were in record by the United Nations and other observers. So the civil polity in Niger was not very friendly to democratic practices. And if you witness the video that we saw, a country that is deemed to be the poorest or second poorest in the world, and then you saw the government secretariat, you see the kind of vehicles that you have there. How do you agree that that country is poor? So internal contradictions there were, and that explained why the people reacted, not justified.
Okay, yes. Chidi in Kapanchan, good morning. Thank you for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to your guests.
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the situation in Niger Republic, as it stands now, is quite unnecessary and is quite unfortunate too. But at the same time, the regional group that is ECOWAS, that they have to adopt this issue with carefulness. It needs a diplomatic approach of the highest order at this point in time, given the proximity of Nigeria and Niger Republic. If the thing should escalate, the truth remains that it must heavily affect Nigeria as a country. Therefore, ECOWAS, under the able leadership of President Tinubu, should be proactive in finding out the most political and diplomatic solution that is needed to solve this very problem.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in with that, Chidi. Again, we'll take another commercial break. My guest is a political scientist, research associate prof at University of Lagos, Kayode Esuola. Ola Abalogun has called in from the UK. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Morning to your guest.
Indeed.
Sorry, Uncle Yori. First, your app is not working here. I don't know, maybe it's me alone, but I found out from other friends it's not working.
Oh, sorry about that. The TVC app?
That is working.
Oh, okay.
Noted. It's not working in UK. You can find out from other people. I don't know.
Okay.
That's one. Two, sir. To the program you're doing, though I missed some part of it, I don't know the last discussion. Whatever happened in Niger is condemnable, as everybody has done, but something led to something. Something must have led to it, and the gentleman there have said what to. You see, when you take power from the people, you neglect them, it results to. We don't pray we have it in Nigeria. The youth that are talking about military, unfortunately, some of them don't even know anything about military. That is aside. Two, what I think that is missing, especially in our own case, somebody called earlier, I think your first caller was talking about money to National Assembly and stuff like that. Even people that you expect in a high place, sometimes with due respect, TV stations, they give money to National Assembly. But have they gone to find out? You see, I think what happened to us is that sometimes we exaggerate things. When they say National Assembly, we don't even want to hear about it. You understand? Because I have somebody, an insider there, he took a picture, he took everything that they were doing in that place. But I said, why is it that the stations don't do this? But they made the public believe, oh, money to National Assembly. And some senators, too, they don't even know how to defend it. They will just say money is for this, that. So that is unfortunate because when people are in this situation now, and they now see the first roll of call of money, palliative is there, transport you don't do, the next thing is social amount of billions to National Assembly. What do you expect from them, for God's sake? We don't have talking government. They don't. Yeah, sir, go to the assembly here. They renovate every day, and we're hearing about it. We are seeing it when you pass by. It's not even like the ones they have in Nigeria. You can go there and snap pictures. You see renovation going every day, which is unfortunate. Anyway, that's all I got to do, sir. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you very much for contributing in. What are some pictures of Nigerian youths over the weekend burning down politicians' cars? Generally, I don't know if it's the right expression to say picking on politicians, because it's more than the mob action, you know, because of course when people come to sit down and do a forensic examination, it's much more than what people are feeling, that too many of them have had to leave the country, you know, as economic refugees. There is that poverty. But I wanted you, I don't think that you had the time to look at the reactions of France to this, maybe Russia, maybe China, because there was an expression in the ECOWAS statement when there was the diplomatic option under consideration that was said to include external partners, if any.
Well, you see, the new world order is going to play out somehow from this scenario.
And what is the new world order?
Well, it's speculative. We don't know where it is getting to. But what you can read in the immediate realm is that the hegemony of the West is constantly being eroded. Rightly or otherwise, many countries in West Africa believe that their interests have not been protected by the West. That the alignment they have with the West is parasitic, therefore destructive to their psyche, to their mentality, to their political system, as well as their economy. Unfortunately for them, the Francophone countries don't have the world open to them as much as the Anglophone countries. When they are in crisis in their countries, how many countries can they travel to? That will not be a problem in terms of language barrier. So they are more restricted. than the Anglophone countries. And therefore, they are likely to bottle up a lot of problems within themselves, even when they don't have solution. My good friend Tego, we always talk about frustration and aggression, that when people are frustrated, they become aggressive. And that, in Yoruba wisdom, is called weresun theory. You know, when you force a madman towards the wall, the next thing is for him to abnormally attack you. So the abnormality is what you see in the mob action at the government offices in Niger. These are rational people who were wise enough to vote in the government, but they suddenly became irrational to the extent that they were destroying the very government that they put in. Something went wrong. And that is why we must continue to probe it. And that is why also, in the approach of ECOWAS towards resolving the problem, I like the way one of the callers put it. They said this is the greatest diplomatic political challenge that ECOWAS has. Care must be taken. Something went wrong. Why did it go wrong? What lesson do you have to, learn as a regional, sub-regional organization, and as a country, Nigeria? You know, if we put all this into consideration, we will not just go straight for live in 7 days, otherwise we attack you. Okay. That will spell doom.
You think it's a bit of a simplistic approach to
it? But again, I trust the wisdom of, I want to trust the wisdom of those there. They will not be that brutal.
Mr. Olufemi in the UK, good morning. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
And good morning to the gentleman over there.
Good morning.
I've listened to the narrative. I'm of the opinion that the coup in Niger is uncalled for. The worst civilian government is better than the most generous military we can have anywhere in the world. Nigeria is an example, and we're yet to come out of it. The ECOWAS, they have taken a stand, and I applaud it. They should not go back. What happened in Niger have the potency of ripple effect in some other region African countries. The ECOWAS should stand strong and pursue the view that they have put out over there. The military in Niger should not be allowed to stay longer than necessary.
Indeed.
They've given them ultimatum. Regardless, there will be consequences. Either way you like it. Let the ECOWAS stand. That is my opinion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olufemi, calling in from the UK. Indeed, that is the stand of ECOWAS and its current chair, our president. And this, you see, when people say the truism that we have been taught by political scientists that the worst democracy is still better than the most benign military rule. Well, it's okay. You guys have no doubt discovered that over from research over periods of time, but it doesn't seem to be what the people can just see for themselves. They don't see it. Patience might be necessary. You don't talk to people who are desperate about patience. And so they're letting off steam, and it's messing up the whole place.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, somebody talked about political communication. You see, when you are roasting granite for a blind man, you should keep whistling so that the blind man will not think, rightly or otherwise, that you are stealing. Or
I like that African saying.
I mean, we have all the wisdom in Africa. We don't need most of these foreign.
Not for a blind man.
You must keep whistling so that
he
knows that you are not eating it. Because if he doesn't see, he can react otherwise. It speaks to the Nigerian situation. It speaks to most of the situations in African countries, and we must take that as a framework for operating with the people.
Let me take Elder David. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
God bless you, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. We should not doubt Nigeria. You see, the problem we have is that we don't know the importance of what Nigeria is. And I'm happy the man in government today is a man that will do things for the interest of the community and for the interest of Africa and for the interest of the world. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So when we are saying, why does it interfere with Niger issue? Niger issue has something to do with Nigeria issue, don't know. And whatever Niger is enjoying today, Nigeria contributes a lot to it. And this is a test, this is a very big test for this government. And what the president has done so far, yes, the world community, AU, the United Nations have supported it. So let nobody doubt it.
Indeed.
And what you are saying there today is very bad. And this is what could have happened if the APC have not come in 2015. But they are always quite different in a way. Yeah, because at that 2000, in Nigeria, we are tired of PDP, of what they have done, which was very bad. We thank God the APC coming to rescue us. But in case of Niger, there is a difference there. And what those people are doing there today is not good. Nigerian intervention is going to succeed. They gave them 7 days. You could see what is going to happen. Are we not smart applying their light and others? So let nobody does it.
Indeed.
And whatever people is doing today, the president, you are saying there, is in order. And he will do it like what Babangida did in Liberia. When we have ECOWAS, we all know about it. Shall tell you where is it today? Those military men in the Republic should either accept what they have told them or they will face disgrace.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much, Elder David, for calling in. General Abdurrahmani Chiani, the leader of the leader of the rebellion.
Coup.
It's in fact, well, as far as we are concerned in ECOWAS, it is still referred to as an attempted coup.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
well.
because that's the language there. But the man has proclaimed himself the president. And so we were exploring earlier that, look, a number of options are on the table. It doesn't matter if ECOWAS has already said that, you know, you must quit in 7 days. In failure, we will bring you know, force to bear.
You should not say it. And ECOWAS should not say it.
So
study the situation much more, you know, comprehensively.
That is the challenge.
And come out
there.
with solutions that will put all of us in safe position.
Because they have already reacted to that.
They have reacted.
By saying
that you expect that from the military government.
Yes,
anywhere
we are able to defend
you cannot
ourselves.
threaten them, yeah.
It doesn't matter whether that is true or not.
There's a demarcation between what supranational organization can do and that of what a national organization can do. So it's expected of them to react that way. You know, it is now left to ECOWAS with the support of AU and UN and other actors around the world to work out the best way of resolving it. Indeed. And I said, and this should be registered in a very permanent way, that governance in West Africa must be addressed. Any solution...
Much more vigorously.
Much more vigorously that has been done.
Hillary, good morning and thank you for holding on.
Yeah, good morning, Yori.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for the program, and then the prof there is doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
Now, he's giving us the background to all of this, you know, theoretically and what actually is the reality. The reality is that Africa should wake up to govern well. Leaders should govern well. He talked about frustration and aggression. Now, if you look at Nigeria as it is today, I can bet you that if anything happens and there comes a situation where there's some kind of, takeover of government, God forbid, you still see the same people, the same civilians, the same Nigerians that are saying democracy. You see them on the street because there is hunger, there is despair, there is bad leadership, not just Nigeria, but everywhere across Africa. And so the discussion should be, as they're talking about, you know, strategies to get Africa on the map of the world in terms of international relations and all that. there should be conditions for leadership. How do I put it? Just a leader should know that if you don't lead well, the same people that you think are there, democracy, military leadership, dictatorship, the stomach speaks first. That is my idea about this. If the stomach, if the being, the well-being of the human person is not properly taken care of, the same human person you think will embrace whatever leadership model, whether democracy or whatever, the same human person will react and say, look, I need to survive first. And then again, let me say this. The Tinubu government just came into power. Please, diplomatic solution should be employed. Not military, not whatever, because Nigeria will bear the brunt. And the economy of this country is almost in shambles. So Tinubu should not come out vanishing his big chest in terms of war, in terms of power, the so-called Nigeria being the superpower of Africa. No, we need to organize our economy. And so we should push for diplomatic resolution to this crisis in Niger.
Okay.
Because Nigeria will surely pay more than the rest of the countries that are saying, let's go to war, whatever. This is my submission. And I thank the prof for the analysis he's making.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hillary. You know, so as the gentleman says, look, you go the military route, anyhow you look at it, we're like the big brother in Africa. So a lot of the bill is going to be at our doorstep. Now, can we afford it?
We can't. Financially, we can't.
So
Socially, we can't.
We can't.
In fact, a vast majority of these menial workers in Nigeria, who people believe, rightly or otherwise, are constituting some form of insecurity in Nigeria, are not Nigerian.
That's right.
Many of them are from these neighboring African countries.
Yes.
No war yet.
Yes.
Just imagine a case of war or military counter attacks and all of that. The pressure will be on Nigeria.
It will.
All of them will invade us and worsen our security, worsen our economy, and worsen our social situations. So, like the last caller said, and as I also advanced in my position, the solution, the body language to the world is okay. Threaten them, let them know, clear you are not in support. But when you get to the solution table, the approach must be more robust, more engaging, more eclectic, and more realistic.
Indeed.
Baba Mogba, that goes straight to Nigeria.
Okay.
If people hail you, check yourself.
Check yourself.
And know what is best for your position.
Mr. Thomas, good morning.
Sure, good morning.
All right then.
Thank you. I'm enjoying the analysis from the prof there.
Yeah. How it is, Yola? Exactly.
Yeah.
Go on, please.
I just want to say, why the coup in the first place? I think the African nations or the countries, they should, by this time, start looking up. We don't hear of coup in this developed world. Why? Because they entrench proper democracy. When there is no proper democracy, what do you expect? You discover people in civilian. They also get into power, into office through coup. So, but if the people actually voted them, it will be difficult for coup to come in to take place in the first place. So the African nations should first of all have a proper democracy where the people actually select and elect their leaders and not select. When we have a proper system where elections are being conducted, the right people are in office, as the Bible says, when the righteous rule, the Africans will rejoice. We see a few people that get themselves into power by all means, and that is what we are suffering today. Can we listen to the response from the coup leader saying Tinubu government is not legitimate? You see it. It's written all over everywhere. So illegality does not beget illegality. We should start with a proper democracy. I think that is where we should start from.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling in. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Cowdy, is we've seen this before in Africa. This whole matter about, following talks, the military will spend as little time as possible, and that time will be used to be organizing elections for a quick, swift transfer of power back to civilians. And what we have observed in Africa, that's what you teach, is that but when they get there, the soldiers are not in an undue haste to perform as agreed. And so, whereas ECOWAS might be thinking that if we can talk with these guys, maybe stay there for about 3 to 6 months, organize elections, we can barely bear it.
And that's why we always insist that you don't start some things because you will not be able to finish them. One of such things is a political system exposing itself to a level where something like military coup will happen. You can only see the beginning. You may not be able to see
how it's going to end.
The other places we call sinner climbs. Many of the callers here this morning have called from UK, US, and all this stuff. They don't witness military coup, not because they don't have soldiers, not because there are no contradictions within their systems. It is because they are balancing things.
So power structure
I
that you talked
started
about.
on the note of extreme use of power, action and reactions. You know, when you don't balance the political system, you will have extreme reactions, as it were. So, when the military gets to the office, it is confronted by two things. One, the promise of change. And so it takes radical steps, cancel this, suspend this, goes into this and all these things to be able to show, you know, the people who offered it legitimacy that it is doing their bid, the government. But when that is done, a lot of things will have occurred. Toes will have been stepped upon.
Yes.
Reversals will have been made. Arrests and executions will have been made. So the military becomes uncomfortable living because it does not know what happens when it leaves.
Exactly.
Now the case of Edie Balokun, Ara Orokun, Ara Oradie. I mean, I always like to use African proverbs because they all explain the realities in our environment.
I'm afraid that, and I don't have the time to interpret that one. Because
some other days we are going to...
Yes, because Biodun Imagodo is waiting on the line. You're our last caller. Good morning to you, Mr. Biodun.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for calling. Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I've been watching the program and I felt that when you look at the issues, there are two different interests involved. One is the interest of the West, who are hedging on other countries in Africa. And secondly is the interest of Africans themselves, particularly in the West African state. When you see the coup cutting down right Africa into the middle, there's a serious threat even to Nigeria's security interest. The moment you have coup next door to your country, then we really have a major problem because there is no doubt about it. We've had an experience with the military, and you can see till today, the Abacha loot, we are still recovering money. I do not know of any form of administration of any country that is more corrupt than the military. Up till today, we are still recouping Abacha loot. We cannot afford to keep quiet, and ECOWAS cannot afford to keep quiet about what happened in the Niger Republic. When people talk about it's a popular thing, look, there is no coup or there is no civilian administration does not have its own supporters. You always have people on both sides of the divide.
Okay, Biodun, I beg your pardon. I really do beg your pardon. I think you understand, Biodun. You also being, quote-unquote, one of us. We've run out of time and completely. Thank you very much, Biodun, for contributing that. And, the bottom line I'm going to take from you, Cardi, this morning, you said so many things that are valuable, is that when they come to talk, we'll get to be a bit more pragmatic about it.
Definitely.
Because the whole matter about force, that is not something to be taken.
It has not shown any productive results around the world.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, as I said, unless there was the final point.
It's an ongoing discourse.
It is, indeed, so we'll continue.
But much more importantly, governments in ECOWAS must balance the use of power.
Indeed.
Otherwise, this is not a justification, it's an explanation.
You said so.
coups and counter-coups will continue to occur.
Okay. Kayode Suola, there, political scientist, research associate professor, IADS, University of Lagos. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition.